All right, it is 4:02, so I will go ahead and kick us off. Thank you for joining us today. Cure Alzheimer's Fund is very happy to provide a platform for Dr. Sarah Fontaine, who is the program manager for the peer-reviewed Alzheimer's research program, which is congressionally directed research that is then performed under the auspices of the Department of Defense. We are thrilled to give her this platform because we are excited for everybody to find new opportunities to get support for their Alzheimer's research. We will be going ahead and providing Dr. Fontaine's slides after this presentation. And if you have any questions about the program, we did provide her email address in our invitation, and I believe it is also available, or there is a place available for questions in the materials. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Fontaine, and I will mute myself, but thanks again for joining us.
All right, awesome. So thank you, Meg, for the introduction. It is my pleasure today to talk to you about the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Programs, or CDMRP, and the peer-reviewed Alzheimer's Research Program, which you will hear me awkwardly abbreviate as PRARP. I'm sorry, there's no better way to pronounce it. So we go ahead and get started. Just a little bit first about CDMRP. So we were funded by patient advocates in 1992, and we operate on a mission to responsibly manage collaborative research that discovers, develops, and delivers healthcare solutions for service members, veterans, and the American public. So we fund efforts globally. We don't have any restrictions on citizenship for our funded efforts. And we really strive to transform the biomedical research landscape by focusing on that impact to the end user. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which I know is a lot of text. I just want to point out a couple of items that I think are really important, and you can read the rest on your own time. But first, one of the things that I love most about CDMRP, and I think is really one of our biggest hallmarks, is that we involve patient advocates at all stages of our processes. I'll explain a little bit more about our processes, but suffice to say that we include them from the ground up, from when we set up a program, during the review sessions of the programs, and all the way through into the research. We sort of adopt that principle that if the research is for them, it should involve them. And it's really one of the real privileges of working at CDMRP, to really get to know the patient advocates and the people for whom this is a very real aspect of their daily lives. So the next thing that I want to point out, and this is really critical, is that we are not the NIH. We don't operate like the NIH, and we have a completely different pot of money from the NIH. So we actually have congressional special interest dollars, which are kind of like a special add-on to the end of the defense budget. So this means that the way that we utilize our money is completely different from the NIH. So a couple of hallmarks: we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to setting up our funding strategies. So we can kind of move on a dime. A good example of that is when COVID hit, we were able to pretty much instantaneously set up grants to fund COVID research. What this also means is that we fund all of our research upfront. So if you say you get $1 million award, that entire $1 million is yours. You don't have to worry you're going to get a different amount every year. You get the whole amount of money obligated to your institution upfront. We don't have a pay line, and that's because we have a slightly different process of reviewing and selecting proposals for funding, which I'm going to talk about next. So we have what we like to call our two-tier process. And so two-tier because we have programmatic review and peer review, and they operate together. So we kind of work with the idea that we need to have both scientifically meritorious research, but also research that really fits each program's goals and mission. So for the peer review, this is where each application is reviewed on its own merits against the peer review criteria, which are published in each one of our funding opportunities. We include a patient advocate or somebody who is living with the experience of that disease, disorder, and condition on every single peer review panel. And that means that they are also looking at the applications and making sure that they're providing us that boots on the ground voice of whether or not this is something that is really going to have the impact that the investigator thinks that it will. The other thing that I do want to point out about our peer review is that we don't have standing peer review panels. We recruit expertise every review cycle to make sure that our expertise is matching the subject matter of the proposals that come in. Following peer review, we have programmatic review. So the programmatic review panels look at all applications, compare from one to another. And they evaluate them for what we call programmatic fit. And so that, again, is looking for high impact relevance to the program's mission and goals and strategic space. Again, no pay line. So really what that means is that you could have a number of very highly scoring proposals, but maybe one of them just better fits the needs of the program and gets funded above another. So that's a little bit how we're different, but I just wanted to kind of explain that to you as you go in. Again, our programmatic review panels usually have 2 to 3, if not more, folks who live with that disease, disorder, condition, or caregivers or families. So for example, the Alzheimer's programmatic panel has 2 caregivers, one of them who's actively involved in clinical trials, and we also have an individual with early stage Alzheimer's disease who is on the panel to provide their perspective on the impact of the proposals. Oops, sorry, my scroller's a little fast. So I explain all of this to bring us to the topic of funding, and I'm sharing these slides, so don't worry about frantically writing any of this down. Suffice to say that there are multiple places you will find our funding opportunities, and the easiest and the best place to look is our website. We post our open funding opportunities as soon as they are released on our website, and that is the best place to find information first. I want to give you a really quick walkthrough of our funding application process, just to keep us all on the same page before I start talking about the specifics of the PRARPS funding. So first, CDMRP does require a pre-application, and this comes in 2 flavors. So flavor number 1 is a pre-proposal. So this is more of a mini application, somewhere between 3 to 5 pages. It's reviewed by the programmatic panel first, and then there's an invite or no invite stage where we will then invite you to submit a full application. The second flavor, and the flavor that the PRARP chooses, is the letter of intent. So this is more like an entry ticket. So letters of intent are not reviewed. They're just kind of like 1-page teasers of the full application that you intend to submit. So our pre-application phase then is really simple for the PRARP. Once you've ensured that your institution is registered in sam.gov to receive federal funding, you write up your letter of intent. This can be as simple as thinking about it as an abstract. It should be no more than 1 page. I will kick it out if there's more than 1 page, because really what we use this letter of intent for is to A, initiate my peer review process, and B, just to get kind of an idea of what sort of flavors of scientific expertise we're going to need to start looking at, and kind of get a basic idea about how many proposals with human subjects we're going to be expecting. So once you submit your letter of intent, you're not going to get any sort of notification. So just go ahead and plan on submitting that full application. Think of that sort of step 1 of the letter of intent, and then step 2 is the full application. And you will have to have a letter of intent in order to submit a full application. Again, it's your entry ticket. So my single biggest tip that I have when applying for funding is kind of all of our single biggest tips. And that is, I encourage everyone to read our program announcements fully. They are beasts. I write them, so I know just about how much fun they are to read. But I promise you that I have written everything you need to address an application and to do it successfully. All the review criteria are published there. Everything that we will need in an application and what we're looking for in an application has to be published in the program announcement. And so that is why they are lengthy. But I do promise you that everything I need is in that document, so read it carefully. I want to make a couple of notes here. So make sure that you do not include programmatic panel members on your application, because I will have to reject that application. They are not allowed to consult or participate in any of the funding opportunities. So don't add them as a collaborator. It's not going to look better. It's actually going to make me have to kick out that application. So the programmatic panel members are listed on our website. You'll be able to go and see who our current programmatic panel members are, so that you can make sure that you are not adding them to your proposal. Most of mine are really good about sort of keeping that line very, very clear, but just, sort of on the off chance, make sure that you check that out. And then the second tip really that I want to leave you with is that make sure you give yourselves plenty of time to navigate grants.gov, because there is then a kind of secondary verification step that is needed. And that step is really critical for you to double check everything, but you cannot modify or make any edits to your program, your project narrative, or to your budget. So make sure those two documents are in tip-top shape before you submit. And now let's go ahead and talk about the PRARP. So, obviously saving the best for last. The program exists. The program exists to address and mitigate long-term complications of military service, such as TBI, as it pertains to Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's disease-related dementias. I know that's a little bit confusing, but suffice to say, we are the only funders of Alzheimer's research in the DOD, and we're really looking for understanding of the association of risk factors and developing dementia. And one of our core mainstays is to improve the quality of life of people who are currently living with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And that also means that the people who are caring for those who are living with dementia are very, very important. You'll hear me keep referring to our website. That's because it's a terrific resource for you. And I try to spend time making sure that everything is up to date. So you'll be able to find our funding opportunities. You'll be able to find recent news that's related to our program, our awards that we have funded under the program. You'll be able to find questions about eligibility and some of our other frequently asked questions for the FY23 funding opportunities. And you will also be able to find previously funded awards, so you get kind of a flavor of what our portfolio has looked like in the past. And I've got a couple of circles here just to sort of orient you into the a couple of resources that I think will be really helpful as you look through this website. So I'd mentioned about funding flexibility. So every year we assess our priorities for the PRARP, and we review them and come to consensus whether they're priorities or if we need to sort of if a higher need comes along. So for FY23, the priorities are listed here in purple. As you can see, we focus on things that will provide high impact to individuals living with AD and ADRD, including quality of life and caregiver research, prevention, diagnosis, diversity and equity efforts. In addition, we have a couple of other requirements. Proposals have to address military relevance in some fashion. So we use this as a broad term, and I want to explain this because a lot of people do get confused. So there's no requirement that you do work in a veteran population or a service member or population, because we also have a mission to serve the public, the American public. But one of the things that I like to kind of have folks think about is that you may think about military relevance in terms of readiness of the service member. So imagine, if you will, a service member whose mother or grandmother has been diagnosed with dementia, and this service member is one of the key supporters of this individual. Well, it is really hard to deploy somebody to a dangerous part of the world to do a highly classified and pretty dangerous mission if they are worried about the person with dementia at home, if they're worried about their care, if they're worried about their treatments, if they're concerned that maybe they won't like their interim caregiver while this person is away, if they're worried that this person is a wanderer and is going to go walkabout on them. Really difficult to have your mind focused on something incredibly technical and difficult and dangerous if you're still worried about your loved one at home. And so that really does impact what we like to call force readiness. Another thing you can think of in terms of military relevance is the idea that when you are necessarily looking at the populations that are being impacted by the disease, and a lot of it is women, a lot of women caregivers are their spouses, and a lot of these spouses have served. So we're actually seeing increasing numbers of veterans or people who have served. They don't always consider themselves veterans, who are providing care for their spouses who are living with dementia. And that comes with a completely different set of considerations for healthcare risks, not only the risks of the person who has served themselves, but kind of then dealing with caregiver stress and everything else that you need to deal with as a caregiver for somebody with dementia. So these are a couple of ways that I just kind of wanted to illustrate that when we say relevance to military health, that we mean it in a really broad sense. So the next slide I want to talk to you about is the good one, right? So these are our funding opportunities for FY23. So we're offering 3 mechanisms: the Transforming Care Award, the Transforming Research Award, and the Transforming Diagnosis Award. Again, details are on our website, but I'm going to talk about each one of these mechanisms in the coming slides. I'm just going to go through 2 commonalities between all the mechanisms that I want to bring your attention to first. When you're applying to the PRARP, so as again, remember I gave you a little bit of an overview of that process. Letters of intent for the PRARP are due the 31st of May. That's next week. So I do apologize with the rush of the time. But again, what I really wanted to say was that letters of intent are 1 page. Think abstract, think brief description of the research. You're going to submit them at ebrap.org, which is our portal for grants management. I just need you to indicate if you're using human subjects or samples. Know that the LOIs aren't reviewed. They're used for program planning purposes, like I had said before. And again, that LOI is your entry ticket. I can't let you submit a full application if you don't submit an LOI. Your LOI and your full application do not need to align. They might be a little bit different, and that is okay. Err on the side of submission is kind of the call that I'm giving to anybody interested in these opportunities. You can always change pretty much everything except for the mechanism you applied under about the research before you finish up your full application, which are due on the 10th of July at 11:59. So you'll submit these at grants.gov. All the requirements are described, very well described in the program announcement. And again, double check on your project narrative and your budget, make sure those are correct. So for our 2 commonalities that kind of run throughout all 3 of our mechanisms, we have the career initiation and transition partner option, which I have abbreviated CITPO because the DOD loves abbreviations and I'm embracing that. So what a partnering PI means is that 2 PIs are going to collaborate on a project, and each PI receives a grant and is the named PI for that grant. So as you can see by my crazy little graphic here, your project and total budget are going to be divided between the CITPO PI and the other PI. PI should have contributed significantly to the proposal together. It's a very collaborative effort. They can be from the same or from different institutions. They can have the same scientific expertise or disparate scientific expertise. That's also okay. We're very open to what you might propose. The point of this is to sort of assist investigators in getting their own named grants. So for a career initiation PI, to be eligible, you would need to have 3 or more years following your terminal degree of research experience, but no more than 7 years into that independent position. You'll need a letter of support from your institution, either way for the career initiation or the transition option. The transition option is for new to the field. Fields being either AD, ADRD, or TBI research is also acceptable for us. We're asking for nominal publications and nominal research support. So, if you are a small part of a really big effort, but not the named PI, we'll call that nominal. And the transition can occur at any career stage. We're not confining it to early career. So each of the mechanisms does include this option. And for the Transforming Care Award, we're adding a little bit of a bump to the total award amount. And again, all of these are designed to really build capacity in the Alzheimer's research field and help folks become independent investigators and get their research programs well underway. The second element that I wanted to talk to you about, which is common to all of our mechanisms, is the optimizing research impact through community collaboration. We just call this community collaboration. The idea behind this is that all clinical research should have input from the community in which you're researching. What this looks like is going to be up to you and to your project. This could be a community advisory board, maybe having sort of consultations with people who are living with dementia or the experience of dementia. This could be community-based participatory research or any other arrangement to really ensure that you're including the end beneficiaries' voices in your project. So I'm happy to take any questions about that, but for now, what I want you to know is that all clinical research and the Transforming Research Award will require a community collaboration element, and that it's also a required piece of the Transforming Diagnosis and Transforming Care Awards. So let's talk about the mechanisms in a little bit more depth. We'll start with the Transforming Care Award. The Transforming Care Award is really intended to support projects in the area of individual, family, care partner, community support. You can see some suggested areas that this could cover, but note that there are certainly other projects that fit under this focus area. So as long as you can describe to me how your project relates to this focus area, it is acceptable. This award is $1 million in total costs or $1.2 million total costs if you're using the SIPO. And the key mechanism elements include a focus on person-centered research, focusing on the research outcomes and how they are going to really be used to help people. And I will note that, yes, interventional approaches, by which I do mean clinical trials, are allowed under this mechanism. This mechanism, again, that has that bump for the SIPO, and we do require community collaboration. The next is the Transforming Diagnosis Award. The focus area is pretty self-explanatory, and key mechanism elements include person-focused research, near-term applicability. What we're looking for is something that can be utilized soon and not in 20 years. Remember that we're really kind of thinking of that near-term impact and how can we help people whose reality is living with dementia now. And for this, we do require prospective recruitment. Now, what that looks like and how many participants are recruited is completely up to you as the investigator. Just note that, again, in this urgency to get things implemented, we're really kind of asking for things to be ready to be utilized in people. You'll see that there is the community collaboration requirement again, and again, we do have a SIPO option available. Oh, sorry. One thing I was going to notice too, I was going to mention too, I always forget to mention this. This is our big boy. This is our $2.5 million total cost, and that's true whether it's the SIPPO or the individual PI option. And we are looking at a 4-year period of performance, which is also flexible depending on your research. Finally, we're going to look at the Transforming Research Award. And this focuses on risk reduction and prevention. And as you can see here, there's multiple suggestions on project topics that could fit under this focus area. And again, as long as you can clearly articulate how your project relates to this focus area, there are no restrictions on the subject of your research. So if you can tell me how this is going to help with reducing risk or even potentially preventing Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, this is the area for you. The key elements here are robust, non-incremental research, and there should be some element of feedback to the community. So this is referring both to the scientific community and the patient community. The award costs are $1 million, and again, there is that SIPPO availability. And so for this one, we do allow clinical research and preclinical research. If you are going to do a clinical research project, again, you're going to have that element of community collaboration and engagement in your project. So I'll be ending here in a couple of slides. So here's just a reminder of the deadline and kind of a look ahead at what the review really looks like. So again, letters of intent are due by 5 p.m. next week on the 31st. Full applications are due 11:59 p.m. 10 July, which is a Monday. Peer review will be in September. Programmatic review will be in December. So what that really means is that I am hoping to give everybody some good end of year news for those of you who have submitted an application and are selected for funding. So as many of you are aware, and if you're not aware, CDMRP actually has 35 different research programs, and the Alzheimer's research program is just one of them. So here in this lovely pink, I have highlighted other neuroscience related programs. I'm also the program manager for the ALS research program. You can see our appropriations for FY23, so how much we're spending on research for FY23. And you can see that we have a couple of programs which aren't specifically neuroscience primarily, but do have topics or subjects that they're interested in that do fall in the neuroscience category. And so I highlighted those with an asterisk for you. As I probably have harped on a lot, you'll find more about each one of the programs and the open and funding opportunities for these programs on the CDMRP website. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to take them. But I really want to thank you for your time and your attention, and it's really been my pleasure to share my funding opportunities with you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up to questions. People can go ahead and speak out. We do have a hand up from Anna, so go ahead, Anna.
Hi, Sarah. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for talking. Actually, I've been applying for NIH for a while, but never applied for DOD. So very good to get to know you guys. A couple of questions. One is, can you submit more than one letter of intent?
Yes, you can.
Okay, great.
So you can submit more than one letter to either the same mechanism or different mechanisms. They just can't be the same like research idea. So you could submit 3 different projects, but not the same project under each one of them, keeping your fingers crossed that you'll land lucky.
Right, great. Thank you. And the other question was, can you apply for more than one governmental program? Let's say I apply for this and apply for NIH, and I mean, I think it's impossible, but if lucky strikes,
it is not.
Both get funded and you just choose one. But are you allowed to apply for both?
You're allowed to apply for more than one CDMRP program, even if you wish. So if you wanted to say you have a Parkinson's research interest as well, you could also apply to our Parkinson's program. So we do collaborate really closely with the VA and the NIH. So we do have a federal mandate to avoid research duplication. It happens more often than you would think that we fund the same, we recommend the same project for funding because it's a great idea. And so in that case, we'll try and mitigate the overlap. Sometimes that means removal of a name. Sometimes it means I have to ask you to choose if you want my award or the NIH award. But we do encourage you to apply as many places as you think your research fits. When I was a researcher, I might have sent the same grant to numerous places. And the worst case is you have to withdraw one that gets funded, right? There's no harm in trying.
Exactly. Thank you. And what is the criteria for the letter of intent? I mean, do I
Really
have to
simple.
address all those military?
Nope.
No, okay.
Nope, just an abstract. It could be literally a couple of sentences just describing what your project is and whether or not you are going to use human subjects or human samples, and that's it. It's really that simple.
Oh, great. Do you think you can put the link on the chat for the LOI?
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
awesome.
definitely can.
Thank you. Exciting. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Hey, Meg, if there's none from the actual smart people in the room, I'll jump in. Sarah, do you have a sense of how many awards you're looking to, or how many proposals you're looking to fund, how many awards you're looking to give out?
Yeah, so I'm required to have an investment strategy. So it is written in the PAW. I don't remember it off the top of my head because it can vary significantly depending on what we receive. So for example, last year, we did not get any highly meritorious applications in one of our research mechanisms. We didn't fund anything in that year in that mechanism, but we added an additional couple of awards. So last year we funded, I want to say we made 16 awards, and it really does vary year to year. And really just depends on receipt. So, when we get a huge number of transforming diagnostics awards, and the panel may decide, yep, we're going to go this way. I can't really predict because I have to see what kind of comes in. So at minimum, I think I've put that we're going to fund 10 awards. But again, that can change wildly, and it's all based on a $15 million appropriation for FY23. Should we get more money, I will fund more research. So I tend to put 96% of my budget towards research. So my management costs are pretty low, just so that I can, put more of it towards grants.
Well, I'll pose a question that I think you have covered, but just to clarify one last time. If somebody has a great Alzheimer's project, but it does not touch on TBI, it is still eligible for funding through this mechanism.
Correct.
It does not have to be a TBI related project.
Correct. It does not have to be TBI related. We are looking at people as the whole, right? And so there are other factors which may predispose someone for developing Alzheimer's disease that coincide with their military service that we're not even tracking well. So really what we're looking for is you to kind of consider that and talk about how that relevance is there. But there's no requirement for a TBI population or even a veteran population as your study population.
The program
Great.
for 3 years. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna.
The programs are funded for 3 years. Is that what it is, Sarah?
So the way that my money works is that I will fund the entirety of the project upfront. So your project might be 3 years, it might be 4 years. I had somebody who told me it was 1. I was like, okay. But the period of performance is up to you. I put I'm required to put a maximum in my funding opportunity. Legal makes me. But I'm also allowed to give no cost extensions. So, if your project is maybe encountering some sort of recruitment difficulty, or you need to change something, we'll have a discussion about that, and we can have a lot of time flexibility. I have a lot more time flexibility than I do adding more money flexibility, because my funds come every year and I'm only allowed to spend those yearly funds on that year's applications.
And the max amount for most of the awards is, you said it was $1 million. Is that right, sir?
Correct. The Transforming Diagnosis Award is 2.5 million. And again, like I said, they can be over 3 years or 4 years. It's really up to you to describe that.
All right, well, if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank Dr. Fontaine. This is a terrific opportunity, and I know that there are going to be lots of people interested. As I said, we will be sharing this recording with the group that we sent the initial email out to. If you were not in that initial group, please do let us know, and we'll be happy to send you a copy of the recording. I can be reached at msmith@curealz.org. That's CUREALZ.org. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and I'm sure Dr. Fontaine will look forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.